everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm Deziel and today I'm showing you what I've been doing for the last week. I did some comfort cushion. You know those cushions that you put or in the microwave to make it hot or in the freezer to make it cold. I used to have one of those bags, but it didn't work well for me because all the grain were going or on one side or on the other. So I decided to make a pattern and make it in a different technique. I did it with different sections so the grain doesn't move. I also work on the shape. That is very useful. Very often your pain will be at the neck or just at the top of the back. So with that shape, you could place it exactly how you want. It could be where up or down depending where it's hurting. My pain was more like at the shoulder blade in the back on one side. So with this bag, you could place it exactly where you want. And if your pain is at the lower back, you could put also, but the other way around, letting it hang exactly where you want. So today I'm showing you my pattern and my sewing steps. Now you could see my bag a little closer. For the fabric, I suggest you use at least one of the outside should be cotton. For the inside, you could use cotton here and wool on this side. You could use all your leftover because it won't show at all. The reason why I decide to offer you the pattern and to do all the document for the sewing step and even this video, it's because I find the timing is perfect to do your Christmas present. Before starting, we're going to do the preparation, starting by cutting your pieces. You have 4 pattern pieces. The first one here is for the outside. You have to cut it 2 times in the same fabric or in different fabric for top and bottom. Then you have the big piece for the inside. It's only cut 1 time. The 2 other pieces, if you overlap them here, you'll see that sewn together. It will give you the same shape again. And these are cut 1 also. It's for the inside. Now in the preparation step, I said to trace those lines on the larger piece for the inside, on the good side of the fabric. And I tell you to use the tracing paper. When you get your tracing paper, usually it comes in different color. Here I have white, yellow, and red, and this blue. You place the color, for this example, on the right side of the fabric. You place your pattern over, and using your tracing wheel with the round tip, not the needle one, you're going to trace on these lines. 3 on one side and 3 on the other side. Now I'm going to move the paper and trace the other 3 lines. There you go, it's ready for sewing. For the first step, we're going to do the loop on one of the outside piece. Doesn't matter which one, it's the same thing. You're going to place the loop on the good side of the fabric. Take your little piece of bias or ribbon, doesn't matter. You place the same side one next to the other like that to create your loop. To have one loop on each side, you're going to use that bottom notch and place the loop right at the bottom and make a little seam to hold it in position. I also make one with 4 loops. And to do the 2 extra loops so you have better adjustment or more possibility to attach it. First one is there just below the notch and the second set of loop will be on the notch right over. So these one. And I place it right under the notch also. For the second step, you're going to take the 2 smaller inside pieces. You're going to place them face to face, good side with good side. And you're going to see a lot of notch on that seam. This is because we need to leave opening because that's where we're going to fill with the grain later. The way to do the opening is by doing that seam in many steps. You're going to sew from the edge all the way to the first notch you see. Then from that notch, you're going to look for the next one. This place will stay open. You're going to start your next seam with that notch and sew until the next one. Again, you keep an opening. So you're going to start your next seam at the following notch and sew until the next notch. Again, an opening. Start your seam, continue until the next notch. Another opening and sew the last part. This way you should have 4 openings. Now when the seam is done, you could see my opening. We're not going to fight with the seam allowance. You're going to send it in the direction that it naturally goes. And for me, it's obviously the larger piece. So if you want, you could just press it down a little bit. Now when your piece is ready, you're going to take the third inside piece. So the one where you trace the line, but you're going to place them wrong side with wrong side. So where you have seam allowance with the wrong side, see my lines are still outside. Align with the notch and just sew it all around. When they're sewn together, we could turn it to see the line that we trace. This way we can sew on each of these 6 lines. When your 6 seams are done, you're going to turn it so you could see the 2 smaller pieces. We're ready to put the barley inside. In my little document, I give you quantity for the barley. I said more or less 12 ounces. It is a little less than half a bag, but if you want to make it constant, I suggest that you measure it. When we did assemble those 2 pieces together, we kept 4 opening, and when we did the top stitch, each one is now 2 opening for each side of the line. So you have to fill every single of those 14 sections. I suggest that you put a little bit in each one. Then you put it on the table, you just look to see if it's more or less even, and use the rest of your barley to fill in the area that don't have enough. Now when all the barley is even on all the section, I suggest you do a seam by hand. So take a thread and needle. I have a double thread here, and I already start, but I show you how I do it. Right on the table, you're going to go with your needle and make long stitch. Doesn't matter, mine are more than 5 millimeter or more than a 1/4 inch. On the top part, if you notice, you go like that from one side to the other, 2 or 3 stitches at the time. And don't worry, the seed won't go through because now all the layers are one next to the other, so there's no way it's going to move. I did try to do that seam on the machine, and I did it for my first bag, but I find it harder and it took me much longer to do it by machine than to do it by hand. That's why I suggest you do it by hand on the top side or on the side that you send your seam allowance. If you still prefer to do it on the machine, I still suggest that you start by doing a large stitch by hand like that. Even 2 seams to make the area where your foot is going to be flat without the seed under, because it's a little dangerous to go over a seed. It's going to break your needle. Then for the step 9, you're going to take your 2 outside pieces. You place them face to face and you're going to sew, keeping an opening from the notch that you have on top. You're going to sew all around until the other notch that you have on top on the other side. Now you could see my 2 outside pieces are sewn except for the top part. Place your inside over the wrong side of the outside. Just like that, you center it, and the step 10 is to tack the inside to the outside so it doesn't move at 6 different areas. 2 place on top, 2 place on the round part over here, and 2 place on the inside curve. And you do your tack for about 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch inside the seam allowance value. When your tack are done, we're going to turn the bag. So put your hand inside the outside layer, and with your hand inside, you're going to grab the inside bag and just pull it out. Same thing on the other side. Grab the inside bag and just pull it out. Now when it's on the good side, the last thing we have to do is to close the last opening. Fold your seam allowance on both sides. Make sure your inside bag remain inside. And it's only the 2 outside pieces that will put one over the other. And at the machine, you're going to stitch them together at 1 millimeter or 1/16 of an inch from the fold line. For the one who likes to work by hand, you could also close it by hand. That's it, the bag is done. I did my last seam just here to close the top part. The last thing is to cut a ribbon or here a bias. I ask you to do a measure of 1.80 centimeters or 71 inches more or less. You might find it long if you put it only around your neck, but believe me, if you want to let it hang in your back, lower back, the measurement is perfect. If it's to put in the microwave, I think a minute and a half should be okay because it's a thin bag, and it's good to have 2 of them, one that you leave in the freezer that you have ready whenever you need it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I see you next time.